Urban gardeners out there, you can do it too.
Holy
I don't know.
help, I need somebody. Help, not just anybody.
Help.
Get me out of this corn maze.
Apparently they have a 50-foot corn monument.
It's an amazing maze.
She actually was growing 3 other pumpkins.
And that one ate the other 2?
Welcome back to the Helpful Gardeners podcast. Well, this is a very amazingly corny episode, Colin.
Starting off with a corny joke, no less.
Sitting on that all day. Starting off in our garden news segment, there's a lot of largest vegetable competitions going on right now all across North America, and it's so much fun. So I wanted to start off with the largest pumpkin in BC in 2024 goes by the name of Orangina, which, by the way, I mean, you kind of grow attached to it, right? Yeah. So I just love looking this up and seeing all the cool names that people name their pumpkins. It's great. So Orangina was grown by an urban gardener in Vancouver. They grew it in their front yard, which I've never heard of before. Usually when you see these biggest of vegetable stories, they're always in these big farms and everything.
They're in farms, or they're in specific vegetable allotments. Because that's brave, because I don't want to focus on this, but there's sometimes not great people in the world, and people look at things like that and maybe, horrible teenagers. I was a horrible teenager. And they go, let's smash it. Smash the big pumpkin.
Totally.
That's what I'm like. And they did it in the front yard.
Yeah. I'm like, did they have a greenhouse in their front yard? Yeah. And it was not seen. I don't know. It's
have you seen the size of the slugs in Vancouver too?
Yeah. And this one was huge. Guess how big
I censored myself there.
So how many pounds do you think this pumpkin was?
Oh my God. Okay. So a regular pumpkin's probably around 8 pounds. That one behind them, you'd fit in 640 pounds.
Almost times that by 2. So this pumpkin is 1,100 pounds.
Oh my God.
Or just over 1,100 pounds. Yeah. Yeah. It's huge. And that was grown in a front yard. So, all those urban gardeners out there, you can do it too.
How do you, I mean, great. I know how to do it and right conditions and variants and blah, blah, blah. And obviously a lot of care and knowing what they were doing and focus of attention. And even doing all of that, you might not get there. Okay, great. We understand that principle. How do you move it?
I know. When I was in Nelson, they had not that big, obviously, but they had a big pumpkin. And it was the same kind of thing. They had a contest where you guess how much this pumpkin weighs. And they said that the previous year, the pumpkin weighed so much that they had to get an actual crane in, a contraption in.
And what are they going to do with it? That's my next question.
Brad, when I talked to him about this last night, he said, sometimes there's this competition where they will do the competition and then they'll cut it up and then use it as boats, carve it into a boat, or they will use it and they'll actually cook with it. So they'll have a big cook, or they'll donate it to a charity or something like that. So, I mean,
I just think that would make a phenomenal jack-o'-lantern.
It really would. Actually, there are some competitions where they will, I think it's the national, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's called the National Pumpkin Weigh Off, and then they will carve that pumpkin. I went down the rabbit hole at this point and I was like, what other big pumpkins are there? So down in Illinois, this pumpkin got a state record. Teresa Miller of Stillman Valley.
Holy.
So guess how much this pumpkin weighs?
Okay. So the other one you said 1,100.
1,100.
It just inherently looks heavier anyway. I don't know why it looks like it's got a thicker skin.
And keep in mind, this is south of the border, so they probably have hotter weather.
I'm going to say 2,100.
This is a little bit less. So this is an 1,800 pound pumpkin.
I was going to 18 and then I thought, no, go bigger.
So she actually was growing 3 other pumpkins.
That one ate the other 2?
No, but she did. But she was growing 3 other ones. I guess she grows big pumpkins. That's her jam. And this one was named Miss Impressive.
Pumpkin jam.
Pumpkin jam, yeah.
I wonder, that sounds like it would be something.
Do you know I actually tried roasting pumpkin seeds for the first time this year and I'm never going back? Like, I love it.
Really?
It's so delicious. I made pumpkin spice, obviously. And yeah, I was just, because I always thought that when you ate roasted pumpkin seeds, you had to take the shell off of each and every one. I didn't know you could just eat the whole thing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I did know, but how hard are they to make?
They're not hard at all. You just like, so you make sure that all the pumpkin guts are off of them. So you make sure you like clean it really well. You make sure you dry them very well.
Okay.
And then I put butter and pumpkin spice seasoning. I just like put it all over the tray and then just kind of, and then put it in the oven. And I can't remember how long it is, but you can definitely find a recipe on Google. And then you just take them out, let them cool a little bit. And then they kind of come off like, if you put something like butter on them, or like an olive oil or something, like they kind of stick together a little bit. So it's kind of like chips and a bark, like a pumpkin bark. It's delicious. It's really good.
I've never, have I had them? I don't think I've had them fresh. I don't really enjoy pumpkins. We didn't have them growing up. You know how like you have that disassociation?
Yeah.
And the first time I carved one, I didn't like the smell. I didn't like the stringy guts and the bits getting under my fingernails. So I'm not a huge pumpkin fan.
So this one,
oh my,
is down in Oregon, but it's a gentleman from Minnesota. So this is like the National Pumpkin Way Off. So people travel to this thing, which means you have to travel with this pumpkin. So this one is called Hank the Tank.
And I'm going to guess 2,453 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like looking at the picture. I'm like, how did you know that?
Because the scale is right behind the guy in the pumpkin suit.
Oh. Dang it.
Yeah, that one was the easiest.
Yes. But here's the shocker part though. You actually win money in this competition. They won $9 per pound. So they won 22 grand for this pumpkin.
Okay, great. How much did it cost them to ship the pumpkin to Oregon?
I mean,
and what about the people who shipped a pumpkin and then the 2-ton pumpkin or 1-ton pumpkin, whatever a ton is?
So that was really cool. He looks excited. And then that got me interested in seeing if there's any large pumpkins in Alberta. Apparently, the largest pumpkin in Canada, the record holder, is from Alberta.
No way.
Yeah.
I would have thought it would have been East Coast.
I know. Lloydminster.
Okay.
The largest competitive pumpkin in Canada. So, and that's, so here's the thing. So I started thinking about this and I'm like, well, what about that farmer that just grew a pumpkin but didn't get to compete with it, So I have to make the distinction now. This is the largest competitive pumpkin from the Smoky Lake competition in 2022. This pumpkin.
And this is the record breaker of Canada.
This is the record breaker of Canada. This pumpkin just looks sad. But this
he
one
looks like a slumpkin.
I know, it kind of looks like the blobfish.
Yeah.
But this one was 2,500 pounds.
Oh my God.
And yeah, you can kind of see in the background grown on a farm. So not on a front.
Yeah.
Not on a front thing. But yeah, so that was really cool to find out about the little pumpkins. I'm sure there's going to be, as the season goes on, there's going to be a lot more competition. So maybe we'll see another one.
In England, they do competitions every year. World's biggest leek, biggest carrots, all kinds of stuff. And you see some of them and, like the leeks you see in the grocery store that are they're like that big.
Oh, yeah.
You see the leeks and the people are like cradling them like this. It's ridiculous how big they get them.
Do they name those too?
Oh, I don't pay attention to that.
I didn't even notice like any of the other competitions if they name them. Like all of these pumpkins have names. I love that.
I mean, I think you should if you're entering it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it should have a name. I think that's only fair, but that's crazy. Like,
yeah. So in garden news this week, fast round, Colin. What is Canada's largest cash crop?
Canola.
Yes, it is. 6.3 billion in canola per year, or for 2024 rather. Who grows the most corn in the world?
Grows the most corn in the world. I'm gonna guess the U.S.
Mm-hmm. In the heartland, there's some like discrepancies. Some people say like Minnesota. Some people say Iowa. Basically, the Midwest.
Yeah, I would have thought Iowa would have been my guess that region, but.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, though, in Minnesota, Olivia, Minnesota, claims that they are the corn capital of the world since 1973.
That's very bold.
Apparently, they have a 50-foot corn monument.
Good on you.
Okay, that is another thing I love about small towns is like the biggest paper clip or like the biggest whatever that they have. Like, what did they have in Alberta? In Cheeto? They had the biggest Cheeto.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I mean, I like the competition. I don't know which town it was in Calgary or in Canada. Sorry, I should say that had the fight going with the Norwegians on the world's biggest moose, and the Norwegians put different antlers on theirs, and it ended up being 3 inches bigger. So the Albertans extended the legs, or the Canadians. And it was hilarious, this friendly rivalry to see who could have the biggest moose. And I'm like, but it's fun, it's engaging, and it's, especially now with everything that we turn on the news, and it all seems like doom and gloom. And you see that these two small towns in Canada and Norway are having fun with moose statues. That's what we should be doing. That's the pinnacle of mankind right there.
Yeah, it is. So that was really cool. I love that. 50-foot corn in what was it again? It was oh my gosh, why did I see this? Olivia, Minnesota. Tabor corn is very famous in Alberta. I'm sure many parts of the country know about Tabor corn. It's interesting. In BC, though, a lot of people know, like, for example, my cousin grows Sutcliffe corn.
Have you seen that new one, by the way? Sorry to cut you off. Do a quick Google. It's worth looking at. Red Gem. Red Gem corn? Yep. So apparently it was endangered, and some farmer brought it back, and now they're starting to propagate it. It's like an heirloom. It's beautiful. Isn't it though? Like I've always wanted to try what's that, like blue corn? Okay, yeah. I don't even know if there's a real difference in the taste, but they look beautiful. Do you know what the biggest letdown ever was? Right. I bought a bag of popcorn kernels. Yeah. And they were all the different colored corn kernels. And I was like, oh, this is so exciting. And then they all pop and they all just you can't even tell the difference. It's just novelty at that point. Yeah, because the husk blows off and the inside is the same color. And you're like, oh, well, that was a very expensive thing of popcorn. Yeah, totally. Looked pretty. Yeah, I would totally buy this, though. I'd buy the seeds. I would buy this in the grocery store. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So in Tabor corn, it's yellow. Yep. But why is it so famous? I've always wondered this. I've lived here for most of my life, and I've never really known why it's famous. Yeah. The one thing I know about Tabor corn, I'm not a big corn eater. I don't mind it, but it's certainly not a staple in our house. But there are people that lose their mind. Like, Tabor corn season, Tabor corn, totally. Tabor corn. And it's like, all right. Yeah, I've known people who have sworn that there is a different taste. It just tastes better from Tabor. And I was like, well, why though? Why? Yeah. So I looked into it and went on the Tabor, Alberta website. So if you're not familiar, Tabor is a town just east of Lethbridge. So Lethbridge in relation to Calgary is just southeast of Calgary. So the birdseed we get, Mother Nature's, the yellow one that Myrna came in, is from Tabor. That's, shout out. There you go. Yeah, I'll give a shout out there, local. And what they say is that Tabor is just, with relation to where they are located and all the weather that they get, it's just a great place to grow. Okay. So they get lots of sun. The cooler nights helps for sugar production in the corn. They have really good soil down there. And really, it's like tricks of the trade. So generations of farmers have been growing this. And so they've just learned things along the way. And Tabor corn is apparently like so good that if you go to a Tabor truck, you can ask for a certificate of authenticity. What? I did not know this. This was on the website. Oh, so challenge accepted. I know, next year. And I'm like, why didn't we do this episode sooner? Because I would totally go. Next year, we have to go to a Tabor corn truck and see if we can see what the certificate of authenticity looks like. I was really interested. Oh, that's... I mean, really, it's like brand recognition. I can't pour a brown fizzy drink in a glass and say it's Coca-Cola. It could be a cola, but I can't say it's Pepsi or it's Coke. There's brand association. Yes. So yeah, you can't go around telling everybody it's Tabor. You get the heck out of here with your non-Tabor nonsense. Okay, so then I got down the wormhole of corn mazes. So I just kept going. So corn mazes, interestingly enough, Tabor does not have a corn maze. I guess the closest one you can go to is Lethbridge. Well, it makes sense. I mean, your corn is not to be ran through and everything. It's you need a certificate of authenticity to sell it on the side of the road. I just love the fact that they make corn maze, and then the Aztec word for corn is maize, and that always makes me smile. I don't know why. It's a maze.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing maze.
But yeah, I got into corn mazes because we have one in Calgary. No, actually, I think we might have a couple, but we have one really big one in the southeast portion of the city. So just outside city limits.
Yeah. The one I know, I think you're right. I think there is more than one. And the big one I think you're talking about is the Calgary corn maze.
It is, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you recently went on a trip.
Yeah.
I say trip. You went on a ride in a hot air balloon and you actually flew over the corn maze, right?
Yeah, I got like a bird's eye view of it. So if anybody needs a map to the Calgary corn maze, give me a call. I got you. I can sort you out.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was, so we had no idea, because the cool thing about a balloon is that you're purely at the whim of the wind. Mm-hmm. You can control it a little bit, but no, wherever the wind is going, you're going. So we didn't know where we were going to end up. Mm-hmm. Coming in, we looked down and there's a farm, and I looked over and I'm like, oh my God, there's the corn maze. And looking at it, it looks small from your perspective, but then you kind of look back at the bigger picture and you see like the barns and the other fields, and you're like, that's actually pretty immense. Mm-hmm. Like you kind of go from being like, oh, wow, that's amazing, to kind of like, you get that like little whoo.
Mm-hmm. Going into a corn maze and like the thought of getting lost and not being able to like leave, it's like you give up a sense of control by going in there.
So I've done 2 mazes. Well, yeah, they're both mazes. One was called a labyrinth. But it's basically just a fancy way of saying maze. But I did one in Belgium, the one I remember very, very clearly, and it was all done with cedar hedges. And at first it's novel, it's fun. You're like, oh my God, I'm so lost. And then you're like, I am so lost. Mm-hmm. Like, actually, this isn't fun anymore. Yeah. At first it's fun, but there is something creepy, because you think about mazes immediately. I think about The Shining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another one.
Yeah, like those things are inherently creepy, but I think that actually lends to the fun, because and especially spooky season,
exactly,
our brain goes there.
Yeah, and this is a family tradition for a lot of people too, going to the corn maze. So I ended up going to the Calgary corn maze.
Did you really?
I did. I wanted to go check it out.
And these are your pictures?
This is me.
Oh, no way.
At the Calgary Farmyard in Calgary, Alberta. If you're up in Canada, this is an annual tradition for a lot of families. And as you can see, we're in the corn maze, which around August, you can see things are starting to die off a bit. It's extra spooky. This one's really cool because it's so big that they have these little lookout bridges in the middle of the maze. So we're gonna try our best and get out, and we'll take you along the way. I think we're about halfway. Oh, it's a lot of maze. Sheep backs! What a nice way to give you a dead end. And that's it. We got to the exit of the corn maze, and if you have a corn maze where you live, highly recommend going to check it out. They're a lot of fun, especially to do with friends and family. Back to you in the studio. So that was a really cool experience.
When's the best time to go? Because like you said, that's dying back. So when's the best time to go? When it's high and it's green and it's thick?
Yeah, and that was exactly what we were saying just before, was like when it's spooky season, that's when you think to go. But actually the best time to go is like early September, when everything's nice and green. It's still nice and tall.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you wanted and you were like, I'm done with this, you can just literally walk across the field.
Yes, 100%.
You can see your way out.
Yes.
You go in there and you're like, I'll remember. And after 5 minutes, whatever, 500 meters. You are so turned around. You have no idea which way you came in. Unless you've got a bearing by like the sun, forget about it.
Yeah. And so I was kind of going in and looking to see if there was any tips for navigating a corn maze in case that is something that you're nervous about. Have you ever heard of the right hand rule?
No.
So this is where you put your right hand on the side of the maze and then you just follow it all the way around and then you're supposed to make it out. Study the maze before you go in. So at the beginning of this one, they had a nice picture of the maze. And then there's also this really cool thing. I don't know if this is the first year of it, but they had you would scan the QR code and then they have sort of a map that pulls up on your phone. And then you go and it uses like a GPS signal. And then it washes away the map as you go. So you know where you've been.
It's like playing Skyrim with the little map at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. So they have that. So that's an option too. Also take advantage of structures like those big stairs that we found, get a better vantage point. And then also one of the biggest things that people recommend is to remain calm. Yeah. Don't run. Because you run and then you become very disoriented. You want to heighten your other senses. So like looking around and being like, oh, okay, where do I hear? Like, oh, okay, there was a tractor doing stuff over there. So I kind of know whereabouts I am. So if you remain calm and you heighten your senses, then you're going to make smarter decisions.
Yeah. Spooky season. I like to tell this story. So I was just a little guy. We were in Belgium on vacation. So I must have been, 8 or 9. And I was notoriously bad for just wandering off and exploring on my own. I got separated from my parents. We're in this big amusement park, like a Callaway park, something like that. I literally kind of got pulled because the line moved and I was looking and I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm here now. And it was one of those where you get a bracelet so you don't have to pay for anything when you're in there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, except I got separated from my parents at that age and pulled into a haunted house.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I didn't know what it was at first. So I'm totally by myself, surrounded by continental Europeans. I didn't speak any of the languages. So the majority were Belgian. So they were speaking Flemish. I had no idea. Things are opening and jumping out and it's pitch black. And I started getting really upset. And this young, I believe they were Dutch couple, they must have been early 20s, realized what was going on. And they spoke enough English. And they managed to calm me down and they held my hand and walked me through the whole thing and then got me back to my parents, who at that time were absolutely frantic because I'd wandered off and they couldn't find me and nobody knew where the hell I was.
Oh my gosh, they got their own scary situation.
So the whole thing was just a debacle.
Yeah,
and then they tried.
You'll never do haunted houses again? Like, are you triggered from it?
No, I'm totally fine now.
Oh, what?
After that, I really can't scare me anymore.
I mean, if you had been forced to go through there without any assistance, I could see that kind of triggering you. But like the fact that they turned it into a positive.
And that's the thing, always look for good people.
Yeah.
Because there were people who ignored me and I get it. Sure. You're there to have fun. You're not there to look after somebody else's crying kid. But they realized that, he's not just scared. Like there's no family around him. There's nothing else. And they were super nice and held my hand. And told me it was okay. It probably ruined their experience, but shout out to them. Maybe they're telling a story and they're like, hey, remember that little crying brat we found in the haunt?
I'm going to be that next week. I'm going to the Field of Screams.
What's the Field of Screams?
So
why are you going to all these cool places?
They do like the corn maze, but like at night. But it's not there. It's at Cobb's.
Okay. That's the other one, Cobb's,
yeah. So I'm going there and they have like shipping containers of haunted houses. So you go in and then they have like the little corn maze or like the maze. And then you go in and there's like spooky people in the maze. So I don't know. I'm not going to like it.
When I was in high school, it was so much fun in a town called Quispamsis back in the Maritimes. And for Halloween every year, the school converted to a spook trail.
Oh, I like that.
Various classrooms would get together and do themes.
Wow.
And one year, the theme we did was Frankenstein's lab. And I got painted up and had bolts glued on my neck. And I was lying on the table and the kids would come in. And there were other people in there like Dr. Frankenstein and Igor. So the kids would see them and it was all like those electricity balls. And we had some dry ice and stuff. And then when the kids came up to the table, I'd sit up I'd yell, or I'd roll over and look at them, and the screams we got. But that was the intent. They were coming through. And then for the littles, we did one, I think they called it the Smurf Trail. And the older kids got to do the spook trail. And it was totally free. It was a community thing. And we all stayed late after school. It was night and all the lights would be off and it would all be lit with creepy lighting.
That's cool.
And it was so much fun.
Shout out to that school.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing.
That was Kennebecasis Valley High School.
Do you know what the biggest corn maze is in Canada?
I thought they did a different motif every year.
It's in Quebec.
Oh, no, I don't.
No, different one.
No, it might be the same one. I don't know it. Yeah.
Yeah, but this one is 65 acres long in 2022.
65. Okay, so you think about the property we're on?
Yeah.
That's 13 acres.
Yeah. So that's a lot of maze. They got a Guinness World Record for it. Apparently also there was a Guinness World Record for the largest QR code and it was a corn maze.
No, it was.
Yeah,
Somebody made a corn. Oh my God.
In Lacombe, Alberta, the Cray family turned their corn maze into a 300,000 foot QR code that'll take you to their website.
That is brilliant. That is
brilliant.
That is excellent marketing. Wow. There are creative people out there.
It's amazing. So
have you ever walked through just a cornfield?
No. Oh, yeah, I have.
Yeah. So where I lived in Montreal, we were right next to John Abbott, which is an agricultural college, and they have cornfields.
Okay.
And we would often walk various places, and there was a way to cut through the cornfield. Now, it's real easy because corns are planted in rows, and we were going, so if this is the field, instead of walking around like that, you'd cut straight through. Now, we're not damaging the plants. We're not doing, I'm sure they didn't like it too much, but you go in, and there's a group of us, and you all go into different rows, so you're not walking single file.
Mm-hmm.
And it is amazing how fast you lose sight and sound of people.
Mm-hmm.
And they might only be 10 feet away, but it's so dense and so tall, and you can't, and you just go, well, this is the row I'm following. And we never got lost every time we came out the other end.
Oh, but thank goodness.
Yeah.
See, that's scary because in Creston, on my cousin's corn farm, they had a problem with bears. Because bears really like the sweet taste of the corn.
Sure, yeah.
And so you'd have to be extra careful. Because can you imagine you're in the middle of this cornfield and then there's a bear? How do you get out?
Oh my God.
Because they come in, they sit down, they have a buffet.
Yeah, of course.
And then they leave. But
and they wouldn't, it's not like, again, like I just said with the way it muffles sound.
Yeah.
The bear isn't going to hear you. You know when you're walking, you clap, most wild animals run away because they don't want to engage.
Yeah.
You're going to stumble upon that thing.
Mm-hmm. One of the cool things about corn mazes is the pure art in it.
Yeah.
And
how do they do that? Yeah. Did you find that
did.
out? Okay, perfect.
I did. So
is that a bunny rabbit?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So isn't that cute? This little bunny rabbit. This is a little cow.
Wow, that's a Highland cow.
Yeah, a little Highland cow.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't draw that with pen and paper. And these guys are carving it out over 80 acres or whatever the heck it is, 20 acres.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. This one, that's the farmyard.
Spiderweb.
Little spiderweb.
That's a cool thing. That's a cool premise for a maze.
And then this one was the QR code.
That is
right.
Fantastic.
That's just phenomenal. And then Reba.
Oh my God. Yes.
Right. We got all these cutesy ones, but there's a total market. Some designers like to cut the corn when it's shorter to make the job easier. But if farmers are harvesting that corn, they'll use GPS to cut down the corn down if it's tall. You can even plant it by GPS so you know which ones to take out.
That is.
Do you know how much planning ahead you have to do? I bet you the Calgary corn maze, this design was created early last year.
Oh, easily. I imagine it's kind of like here, right? The moment we're done spring and summer.
Yeah.
We're planning next spring and summer.
Yeah, exactly.
It must be the same thing. The moment they have their corn maze designed, they know it's working. Okay, great. We have it. It's done. Yeah. Next.
Yeah.
But how did they do it, back in 1993?
I don't think they were as big and elaborate as they were now, hey?
Fair.
I think back then when I was looking up in 1993, it was a very simple maze. So
your traditional just square, straight paths.
Like 3 things that led to a center, and you're like, oh, I did it.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense because now just do me a favor since you're right there. Google the Beatles corn maze.
Yeah, that's huge, hey?
Yeah. And that's the one I was thinking of when so that is in the States.
Like that, I don't see you just drawing on a piece of paper.
No.
Like that, I think you would require lots of planning. Like I would hire somebody to create that.
Yeah, I mean, the more you look at it, the more you see. But
can we also talk about you have to make it a functioning corn maze. You can't just only focus on the art. You have to focus on making it not too hard. Because when I was looking up some of these corn maze designers, they were like, they have definitely made mazes where it is nearly impossible to get out because there's only one right direction. And then you end up making people frustrated.
You look at that and you go, oh my God, that's amazing. Sure, it looks amazing from this point of view, but you're not going to appreciate that when you're in it.
Yeah.
And exactly, you get hopelessly lost and all you need is help to get out. Help by the Beatles. But all you need is help. I need somebody. Help. Not just anybody.
Help.
Get me out of this corn maze.
But that's so cool. So corn maze design and going through a corn maze, recommended as a family fun activity.
Well, you've sold me on it. I'm going to do it earlier next year.
Yeah. And that's pretty much corn. I mean, we could go into things like crop circles and all the different things, but the things that you can do in the fall with harvest, like biggest pumpkin or family activities like this. There's so much to appreciate about the season. We've said in previous weeks, there's so many things where you're looking and you're like, autumn's kind of like a Sunday where it just feels like, not much to look forward to, but there is so much to look forward to and lots to celebrate.
Well, that's the thing is that I think too much, and I can be guilty of this absolutely, is I don't appreciate autumn because I'm too busy looking at what comes next. Okay. Where spring I appreciate because I know that next is summer, and summer I appreciate because I know next is autumn. But then autumn, you're like, it's going to be winter soon. And that's what goes through everybody's mind. And I find that we overlook it. And let's be honest, we have been very lucky the last number of years, not jinxing anything in Calgary, because we have had some stunning autumns. This one, shout out to this one.
I know this has been an incredible autumn.
Yeah.
A lot of warm weather and being able to actually go outside and enjoy it. Remember Snowtember?
Oh.
Yeah. So we don't really talk about Snowtember because we don't ever want to go back there.
that was devastating. That was brutal. But this one, it's
at least for Canada. I know a lot of places shout out to Florida. They're not having a good autumn.
No.
A lot of devastation down there. So we still have to keep that in the back of our minds.
That's why it is so important, I believe, to appreciate what we have.
Yes. Yeah.
And get out there and make the most of it and enjoy the autumn. We can't change our autumn. We can't change those events that are happening in the world. But what we can do is if we do believe there's an injustice, we can speak out against it. And if we do believe there's beautiful autumn weather, we can get out in it.
Yeah. That's a good sentiment to leave on, I think. So if you are looking forward to autumn activities, let us know. We are on Spotify. We're on YouTube, our video podcast. So if you've been listening to the audio one and you're like, I don't know. I always wonder that when I listen to podcasts. I don't know. You don't even know why it matters. I'm just like, what do they look like? What are they doing? What are they showing?
I always want to know what the studio looks like.
Yes. Yeah. So check out the video portion. Give us a subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you would like to learn more about. Next week, we're actually talking about scarecrows. Right? It's spooky month, so we're continuing on with some spooky content for you. We're also in a couple weeks' time doing our big Halloween special. We love doing that. So if you have any ideas what you'd like to see us dress up as, last year we dressed up as garden gnomes, which was really fun. We've got some ideas this year, so let us know what you'd like to see, and we'll catch you next weekend.
Bye, everyone.